The dinosaurs vanished, but the story didn't end there. In fact, an unexpected sequel unfolded, starring creatures that stepped into the spotlight and nearly stole the show. Nature, it seems, abhors a vacuum, especially when it comes to apex predators. And so, from the ashes of the dinosaur extinction, the terror birds emerged. I find it fascinating how these feathered nightmares carried the torch of their terrifying predecessors. For over 60 million years, dinosaurs shaped ecosystems and evolved into countless forms. But when they disappeared, terror birds rose to take their place. Roughly 53 million years ago, in the early Eocene, the world was vastly different. It was a hothouse, with lush forests stretching from pole to pole, teeming with diverse life forms that arose after the dinosaurs died out. It was in this steamy prehistoric paradise that the first terror bird, Paleopsilopterus, made its debut. At a modest 1 meter, or 3 feet, this Brazilian bird might not have seemed particularly terrifying at first glance. In fact, about the same size as a modern-day stork, it hardly seemed the stuff of nightmares. Yet, appearances can be deceiving, and Paleopsilopterus possessed something its contemporaries lacked: potential. What set Paleopsilopterus apart was its agility and speed, traits that would become hallmarks of its descendants. While it may not have been the apex predator of its time, being dwarfed by monstrous crocodilians and giant snakes, it was a harbinger of things to come. Little did the other inhabitants of ancient South America know that they were witnessing the birth of a dynasty that would reign for millions of years. As the Eocene progressed, so did the terror birds. Nature, it seemed, had plans for this lineage of avian predators, and those plans involved getting bigger. Much bigger. Just 3 million years after Paleopsilopterus took its first steps, a new player entered the scene: Eluthaornis, a terror bird that stood 50% taller than its ancestor, emerging as a formidable predator. But Eluthaornis wasn't content with merely growing in size. It also expanded its range in a way that no other terror bird would match. While most of its kin would remain firmly rooted in the Americas, Eluthaornis spread its wings and ventured across the sea to Europe. Fossil remains of this globe-trotting terror have been found in both France and Switzerland, making it the only known member of its family to have lived outside the New World. I can only imagine the surprise of early European mammals when this exotic predator appeared in their midst, bringing a taste of South American terror to the Old World. But Eluthaornis was just the opening act. As the epochs rolled by, the terror birds continued to grow, adapt, and diversify. However, recent studies have identified features in Brontornis's vertebrae that are unique to terror birds, lending weight to its classification as a member of this fearsome family. Whether Brontornis was a true terror bird or not, its massive size would have made it a force to be reckoned with. Its weight likely made it slower than its more nimble cousins, but what it lacked in speed, it made up for in raw power. I imagine Brontornis as the tank of the terror bird world, steamrolling over any prey unfortunate enough to cross its path. While giants like Kelenken and Brontornis might have relied on their size and power, many of their relatives took a different approach. Speed, it seems, was just as important. Studies of terror bird leg bones have revealed a structure remarkably similar to that of modern-day ostriches, short thigh bones paired with elongated lower leg and foot bones, a clear indicator of high-speed running ability. Paleontologists estimate that many terror-birds, including some of the larger species like Titanis, could have reached speeds exceeding 30 mph, faster than Usain Bolt, while standing twice as tall and weighing several times as much. But speed wasn't just about chasing down prey. For many terror birds, especially the smaller and medium-sized species, it was also a crucial defensive adaptation. In a world filled with other large predators, including giant carnivorous mammals and enormous crocodilians, the ability to make a quick getaway could mean the difference between life and death. This combination of speed and size made terror birds versatile predators, capable of adapting to a variety of hunting strategies. Smaller, faster species might have specialized in chasing down swift prey, like small mammals and reptiles, while the larger, more powerful species could have employed ambush tactics, or even taken on larger, more dangerous quarry. While their imposing size and fearsome beaks often steal the spotlight, the true power of terror birds lay in their highly developed senses. Recent studies of terror bird skulls and brain cases have revealed sensory capabilities that put them leagues ahead of many of their contemporaries. While terror birds might not have had eyesight quite as sharp as modern raptors like eagles or hawks, they were far from being visually impaired. Their eyes were well developed and positioned to provide excellent depth perception, a crucial advantage for any predator. But what really set terror bird vision apart was its versatility. These birds were equally adept at seeing in bright daylight and in the dim light of dawn and dusk, making them effective hunters around the clock. As for their hearing, the inner ear structure of terror birds suggests an acute sensitivity to low-frequency sounds. This ability would have allowed them to detect the footsteps and movements of potential prey, even when hidden by dense vegetation. Imagine a terror bird standing motionless in the prehistoric forests of South America, its head cocked slightly to one side. To a casual observer, it might appear to be resting or even dozing. But in reality, every fiber of its being is alert, its incredibly sensitive ears picking up the faintest rustle of leaves or the softest patter of tiny feet. In an instant, it can pinpoint the location of its unsuspecting prey and launch into action. This combination of visual and auditory prowess made terror birds the complete predatory package. It's no wonder these birds were able to dominate their ecosystems for millions of years. But even the mightiest rulers faced their downfall, and the reign of the terror birds was no exception. For millions of years, these avian predators had ruled supreme in South America, developing into a diverse array of species that filled various ecological niches. But somewhere along the line, their luck ran out. Traditionally, the extinction of the terror birds was linked to the Great American Interchange, a major paleobiogeographic event that occurred about 2.7 million years ago. This event saw the formation of the Isthmus of Panama, creating a land bridge between North and South America. As a result, animals from both continents were able to migrate across this newly formed connection, leading to a significant reshuffling of fauna. The conventional wisdom held that the influx of new predators from North America, including cats, dogs, and bears, outcompeted the terror birds, leading to their eventual extinction. It was a neat and tidy explanation that seemed to make perfect sense. However, as is often the case in science, the truth has turned out to be more complex and nuanced. Recent studies have cast doubt on this simple competition-based extinction model, revealing a more intricate tapestry of factors that led to their demise. The terror birds. When I first encountered them in the fossil record, I was struck by how close they came to surviving into our own era. For years, we believed they vanished 1 million years ago. But now, new evidence suggests some smaller species persisted until a mere 96,000 years ago. Even more remarkable is the possibility that an unidentified terror bird species may have lived as recently as 18,000 years ago. Imagine that. They may have survived almost until humans arrived in South America, roughly 15,000 years ago. What would it have been like if our ancestors had encountered these feathered giants? Could the legends of giant birds in South American folklore hold a grain of truth? While direct interaction is unlikely, the possibility that stories of these creatures were passed down through generations isn't entirely far-fetched. Other megafauna, like woolly mammoths and giant ground sloths, certainly left their mark on human culture and mythology. This near miss serves as a reminder of the incredible diversity of life that once existed on our planet. It's sobering to think how different our understanding of the natural world might be if terror birds had survived just a few thousand years longer. But what led to the terror birds' downfall? It's a complex story. The old idea that placental predators outcompeted them doesn't quite hold up. The fossil record reveals that most terror birds, along with their South American competitors, had already disappeared before placental predators arrived in significant numbers. The success of Titanis in North America also challenges this idea, showing that at least some terror birds could hold their own against mammalian predators, coexisting with large canids and felines for millions of years. So, if competition wasn't the sole cause, what was? Climate change likely played a significant role. From the Oligocene to the Pliocene, Earth's climate was on a long-term cooling trend, culminating in a series of ice ages. This global cooling would have profoundly impacted the ecosystems that terror birds called home. As temperatures dropped and habitats changed, the lush forests that many terror bird species relied on gave way to more open grasslands. While some terror birds may have adapted, others struggled. The larger, more specialized species likely found it difficult to find enough prey to sustain their massive bodies in these changing environments. The influx of new competitors from North America, while perhaps not the primary cause of their extinction, would have added additional prey to already stressed populations. Despite these challenges, the terror birds proved remarkably resilient. Now, let's shift our focus to another group of dominant animals, big cats. Today, the lion might be king, but the tiger stands out as the largest, most powerful, and most skilled of them all. Yet, there was one species in particular that dwarfed the modern tiger in size and ranks among the largest cats ever to exist, the Nandong tiger. In the early 20th century, Dutch paleontologists excavating near Ninggandong on the island of Java in Indonesia made a remarkable discovery. They unearthed bones belonging to a tiger, but these weren't the regular Bengal tiger bones they were used to. These were bigger than anything anyone in the modern world had ever seen. Further research revealed even more astonishing details about this strangely huge tiger. For thousands of years during the Pleistocene epoch, the Gandong tiger roamed Southeast Asia, striving to establish itself as the dominant apex predator. This formidable beast was larger than its modern-day counterparts, with adults weighing up to 20 to 25% more than the average present-day Siberian tiger. Larger males typically weighed upwards of 400 kilograms, making them close contenders for the title of the largest felines ever. Judging from the enormous size of these giants, it's easy to assume that tigers have always been this large. However, a look through history tells us something completely different. Tigers haven't always been this big. Early tigers, existing long before the Nyandong tigers, were notably smaller in terms of body size and weight. This smaller stature could be attributed to the available prey and the ecological niches they occupied. A smaller body size offered energy conservation and agility advantages across various terrains. So, the early big cats related to tigers such as Panthera paleocinensis likely averaged around 70 to 120 kilos in weight. Following them was the Trinil tiger, popularly believed to be the ancestor of all known Indonesian subspecies. I find myself often thinking about the apex predators of the past. Imagine being one, ruling the wild, sitting right at the top of the food chain. Life at the top has its perks, no doubt. But here's the thing I've learned. Even the most fearsome hunters aren't always the biggest beasts around. Because when it comes to the predator game, size isn't everything. Yet, every so often, nature outdoes itself, creating a carnivore so specialized, so perfectly adapted to hunting big game, that it seems almost like a creature of myth. Take the Ngandong tiger, for example. It wasn't the largest tiger ever, but it was certainly impressive. Before it, there was the Trinil tiger, weighing in at a respectable 110 to 150 kilon, existing in the early to middle Pleistocene epoch. Its remains were discovered in Trinil, Indonesia. And as time progressed, the Ngandong tiger took center stage from the late Pliocene to the middle Pleistocene, boasting a weight range of 200 to 350 kilos. This gradual increase in size over the years, I believe, can be explained by the competition for food among large carnivores. They needed to eat more and gain more weight to compete for the apex predator position. The Ngandong tiger wasn't the only fearsome beast vying for dominance. It faced stiff competition from other carnivores like the Smilodon, giant hyena, and dire wolves. The Smilodon, for example, is known for its long, slender canines that could reach up to 12 inches, capable of inflicting deep wounds on its prey. In contrast, the Ngandong tiger possessed more typical robust canines similar to modern tigers, ideal for crushing bone and delivering powerful bites, though less specialized for deep punctures, which wasn't always effective considering the enormous size of prey then. Although, when it comes to the matter of size, it appears that they were evenly matched, as the largest species of Smilodon, Smilodon populator, weighed between 220 and 436 kilos and stood 120 centimeters tall, which is not that far off from that of the Ngandong tiger. A less formidable rival for the Ngandong tiger would have been the giant short-faced hyena, which stood about 90 to 100 centimeters at the shoulder and averaged 110 kg in weight. However, a group of animals that the Ngandong wouldn't have dared to infiltrate were the dire wolves. Although they had smaller jaws and weighed way less than the Ngandong tiger, they had a unique edge. They hunted in packs of more than 4 individuals. In contrast, as a solitary hunter, it would have been quite difficult for the Ngandong tiger to match that intensity when attacking prey. This factor placed it at a disadvantage in the competition for apex predator status. However, that wasn't the only thing the Ngandong tiger had to worry about when defending the apex predator title. Because around this time, early humans were notably prevalent in Southeast Asia, as over 80 individual remains have been found in that region today. So it's likely that they would have crossed paths with the Ngandong tiger. It's easy to say that such encounters would have been unfavorable for the early humans, because when it comes to size, they stood very little chance against such predators. But saying that would be undermining their intelligence. Over time, early humans might have developed tools and strategies to fight back against the Ngandong tiger, forcing the tigers back to the open woodlands and allowing early humans to establish a foothold in the region. One thing about the open woodlands of Sunderland in the Pleistocene epoch is that it had numerous scattered trees and grasslands, which provided good visibility for stalking prey and offered a diverse array of herbivores, including many large species. However, hunting larger herbivores may not have been that successful despite the Ngandong's enormous size. For instance, stegodons were massive proboscideans closely related to elephants, with some species reaching immense sizes. Even smaller species of stegodons would have dwarfed the Ngandong tiger. Stegodon Dynasty, for instance, is estimated to have weighed around 12.7 tons. Their thick and tough skin would have protected them from bites or claws. Then, the Ngandong tiger's best chance would be a scavenging opportunity or an attack on a vulnerable stegodon, like the young, injured, or isolated. Another example is the water buffalo, known as bubulus, which are renowned for their large size and formidable strength, with some species weighing over 1,000 kilograms and moving in packs. So it would have been quite hard to face a herd of water buffalo, as their massive size, strong horns, and collective defense would overpower the tiger. If you found yourself face to face with any of these species, you probably wouldn't be too concerned with which one was about to turn you into lunch. But they did have their differences. First up, we have S. gracilis, the elder statesman of the group. This OG appeared in North America about 2.5 million years ago, descending from an even older genus called Meganterion. Next came S. fatalis, strutting onto the scene roughly a million years later. Last, but certainly not least, S. populator made its grand entrance about 600,000 years after fatalis, fashionably late to the Ice Age party. S. gracilis, while no slouch in the size department, was the runt of the litter, tipping the scales at about the same weight as a modern jaguar. S. fatalis, living up to its name, was a step up in the terror department, matching an African lion in size, but packing on extra muscle like a feline bodybuilder. We're talking about 280 kilos, or 620 pounds, of prehistoric fury. That's on par with the largest tigers roaming the earth today. But S. populator dominated them all. This behemoth pushed the boundaries of felid physiology, with the largest known specimens estimated to have weighed in at a jaw-dropping 470 kilos, or 1,040 pounds. To put that in perspective, that's about the same as a medium-sized polar bear. Interestingly, unlike many modern big cats, Smilodons didn't seem to be too hung up on gender norms. Studies suggest that there wasn't a significant size difference between males and females, a trait scientists call low sexual dimorphism. In practical terms, this means that regardless of whether you were facing a male Smilodon or a female Smilodon, you were in for equally big trouble. Now, being big is impressive, but Smilodon wasn't just large. It was built like a prehistoric tank. The Smilodon's heel bone was a marvel of natural engineering, robust and elongated. In fact, some paleontologists speculate that these Ice Age acrobats could have outjumped modern lions, which have been observed clearing heights of 15 feet, or 4.5 meters. Imagine a cat the size of a bear, capable of leaping over a one-story building. But the Smilodon's athletic prowess didn't stop at its fancy footwork. If modern big cats have arms that could crush you, Smilodon's forelimbs took it to the next level. We're talking about limbs that were approximately 20% thicker than what you'd expect for a cat of its size, giving it incredible strength, surpassing even that of the larger American lion. And at the end of those muscular arms, Smilodon was further armed with fully retractable claws, razor-sharp and curved like prehistoric scimitars. They were proportionally enormous, even for a cat of Smilodon size. We're talking about claws twice the size of a Siberian tiger. Those saber teeth. They weren't just teeth, were they? They were nature's grappling hooks. Perfect for latching onto prey, much larger than themselves. When I think of Smilodon, I confess, it's not the vertical leap or the powerful forearms that first come to mind. It's those iconic, impossibly long canines that have captured my imagination for years. Now, saber teeth aren't unique to Smilodon. Nature has experimented with this dental design across various mammals, even some non-mammals throughout history. But Smilodon, it perfected the concept, taking it to an entirely new level. What made its fangs special wasn't just their presence, but their sheer, audacious length. We're talking about canines so long they protruded well beyond the lower jaw, a feature uncommon even among other saber-toothed cats. To put it in perspective, Smilodon's canines could grow up to 8 inches long. That's longer than many modern kitchen knives. Imagine them, precision instruments of prehistoric destruction, shaped like deadly daggers with sharp points and smooth, narrow sides, designed to pierce deep into flesh with devastating efficiency. And here's where it gets interesting. You'd expect a predator with teeth like that to have a powerful bite to match. But surprisingly, studies have shown that Smilodon's bite was relatively weak, about 1,000 newtons. That's 4 times weaker than a modern lion's. So, how did it kill? Well, that's been a subject of much debate among paleontologists. One popular theory suggests that Smilodon was the original ambush predator. I picture it hidden in dense vegetation, waiting for the perfect moment. Then, With a powerful leap, it pounces on its unsuspecting prey. Using those muscular forelimbs and grappling hook claws, it pins down its victim. With precision, it sinks its saber teeth into the prey's soft underbelly, causing massive internal damage and blood loss. But not everyone buys this gut-stabbing hypothesis. Many researchers favor a different, equally grim scenario. They propose that Smilodon used its powerful build to quickly overpower its prey, then delivered a precise lethal bite to the throat. This would have caused severe blood loss and suffocation, a quick, if not particularly pleasant end for its unfortunate victims. Adding fuel to this theory is the discovery that Smilodon could open its jaw to an incredible 120 degrees. That's almost twice as wide as a human can manage. With a gape like that, pretty much every neck in the Ice Age would have been fair game. But Smilodon wasn't just brawn and teeth. Brain scans of Smilodon skulls suggest that these prehistoric predators had excellent coordination, sharp hearing, and top-notch vision. Their eye socket shape hints at binocular vision, giving them the depth perception needed to judge distances accurately, crucial for a predator that relied on ambush tactics. And if all that wasn't enough, they were fast too. Many Smilodon fossils show trauma to their sternums, the kind of injury you'd expect from high-speed collisions. This suggests that not only were they quick on their feet, but they were also willing to risk life and limb, or at least a bruised chest, in pursuit of their next meal. Smilodon's unique traits, along with its powerful weaponry, made it a versatile hunter capable of taking down a wide variety of megafaunal prey. The specific animals it targeted varied based on the region it called home. In North America, their prey included oversized versions of animals we recognize today, giant bison, camels, and, if the opportunity arose, even mastodons and Columbian mammoths. Yes, these cats were taking down creatures that dwarfed modern elephants. In South America, Smilodon's targets were equally impressive and diverse, including creatures like Toxodon, Litopterna, various species of Glyptodont, along with more familiar animals such as horses and camelids. Some evidence even suggests that Smilodon occasionally went after caimans, cementing its status as a top predator. We know what Smilodon ate thanks to skeletal evidence such as tooth marks on bones, or Smilodon remains found alongside those of their prey, providing vital clues about its diet. One big question that's still hotly debated in paleontology circles is whether Smilodon was a lone hunter or a team player. This isn't just academic curiosity. Knowing whether Smilodon hunted in packs could tell us a lot about its social structure and what kind of prey it typically targeted. One of the strongest pieces of evidence supporting the idea that Smilodons lived socially comes from the La Brea tar pits in California. These California tar pits are a gold mine for paleontologists, preserving countless Ice Age animals that got stuck in the sticky asphalt. But most of the bones found in La Brea aren't from herbivores that got trapped, but from predators that got stuck trying to eat the trapped herbivores. Smilodon fossils are the second most common find in these pits, with over 166,000 bones attributed to it. This high number has led some scientists to suggest that Smilodon might have been a social animal. The reasoning goes like this. In modern cat species, the more social ones tend to be more responsive to distress calls. So, if one Smilodon got stuck, It might have called for help, attracting other members of its group who then also got stuck. It's a grim thought, but it could explain why we find so many Smilodon remains in one place. Another fascinating clue pointing to Smilodon's possible social behavior is surprisingly touching, though in a prehistoric, slightly grim sense. Some Smilodon fossils show signs of severe injuries or disabilities that would have made hunting nearly impossible. Yet, these individuals survived well into adulthood. This has led some paleontologists to propose what they call pseudo-healthcare among Smilodons. The idea is that these injured individuals, I find myself often pondering the social lives of extinct creatures. Could a saber-toothed cat, with those formidable fangs, actually have been a family cat? There's a compelling fossil of a Smilodon with hip dysplasia that survived to adulthood. It's difficult to imagine how such an animal could have hunted alone. The image that comes to mind is of Smilodon families caring for their own, a truly heartwarming thought. However, not everyone agrees with this Smilodon social club theory. Some researchers point out that Smilodon remains found. Outside predator traps are often isolated, suggesting a more solitary lifestyle, like many modern big cats. Regardless of whether Smilodon was a team player or a loner, it was undoubtedly at the top of the food chain. But that doesn't mean it didn't have competition. The Ice Age was a time of giants, and Smilodon wasn't the only predator with an appetite for mammoth-sized meals. Two of Smilodon's biggest rivals were the American lion and the dire wolf. Now, while the dire wolves from Game of Thrones are impressive, real dire wolves, while formidable, weren't quite as monstrous. Isotope analysis reveals that their diet was very similar to Smilodon's, meaning they often competed for the same prey. So, how did Smilodon meet up against its competitors? Well, against the American lion, it was probably a standoff. The American lion had size on its side, being one of the largest cats to ever exist. But Smilodon had those impressive canines, which likely served as a deterrent. Most likely, these two apex predators tried to avoid each other when possible, but conflicts could have gone either way. The dire wolf, on the other hand, seems to have often come out second best in confrontations with Smilodon. Evidence from La Brea suggests that dire wolves would frequently abandon their kills when a Smilodon showed up. With those sabers on full display, most predators would probably decide that discretion was the better part of valor. But lions and wolves weren't the only competition Smilodon had to worry about. The Ice Age was also the time of the short-faced bear, a beast that could make even Smilodon look small. Some of those bears reached truly dinosaurian proportions. However, these ursine giants were more omnivorous than Smilodon, which likely reduced direct competition. Plus, bears tend to be solitary creatures, so a group of Smilodon would likely have deterred them. We've talked a lot about Smilodon's hunting adaptations, but how did it eat with those teeth? Those saber-like fangs seem like they would have been quite the obstacle during feeding. Well, Smilodon had a solution for that too. Unlike most predators that can chomp down from the front, Smilodon was equipped with specialized slicing teeth called carnassials. These teeth, situated on the sides of the mouth, worked like biological scissors, shearing through meat with ease. It was like a real-life version of the ice levels in every video game, but with 100% more lethal prehistoric cats. But there was one more species that Smilodon encountered in its twilight years, one that would change the face of the planet forever: humans. It's believed that our ancestors might have first crossed paths with Smilodon around 25,000 years ago. Imagine being one of those early humans, armed with nothing but primitive tools, coming face to face with a saber-toothed cat. The relationship between humans and Smilodon was likely a tense one. After all, we were competing for many of the same food sources. And, unfortunately for our ancestors, by the time humans arrived on the scene, only the larger Smilodon populator and Smilodon fatalis remained. Given that Meganterion, the possible predecessor of Smilodon, was known to occasionally prey on Homo erectus, it's not a stretch to imagine that Smilodon might have considered early humans as potential prey too. I've often wondered about the moment humans first encountered creatures that dwarfed them, predators that seemed to belong to another world. In 2021, a petroglyph was discovered that offered a tantalizing glimpse into just such a world. It seems to depict a group of humans observing a Smilodon from a distance. It's a quiet, powerful image. But this coexistence, as we know, didn't last. The youngest remains of both Smilodon fatalis and Smilodon populator date back roughly 10,000 years. Around the same time agriculture was taking root. The extinction of Smilodon remains a point of debate among paleontologists. Some argue that humans played a role, perhaps through competition or habitat alteration, like starting fires. Others believe the broader quaternary extinction event was the primary cause. This period of significant climate change led to the disappearance of many large animal species in North and South America. As the megafauna that Smilodon depended on dwindled, the saber-toothed predator found itself in an increasingly vulnerable position. The very adaptations that had made Smilodon so successful in hunting large prey became a liability. It was, in essence, too specialized. When the world changed, it couldn't adapt. The extinction of Smilodon marked the end of an era. It was the last of the saber-toothed cats, not just in the Americas, but worldwide. A lineage that had dominated the planet for over 20 million years came to an end. Yet, its legacy lives on in museum exhibits, in our imaginations, and as a stark reminder of the fragile balance between species and their environments. As we face our own period of rapid change, the lesson of Smilodon is clear. Survival requires adaptation. Most apex predators face a fundamental limitation. They're confined to a single environment. Lions rule the savanna, but are helpless in water. Great whites dominate the ocean, but can't venture onto land. Even T-Rex, for all its might, was limited to dry ground, forced to watch as prey sought refuge in rivers and lakes beyond its reach. For over a century, paleontologists assumed the greatest hunters were strictly terrestrial. Then a discovery shattered that belief: Spinosaurus aegyptiacus. Longer than a bus, armed with the skull of a crocodile and the body of a streamlined aquatic hunter, this was no ordinary killer. This was a nightmare that redefined what it meant to be an apex predator, a monster that could rival, and in many ways surpass, even T-Rex itself. The first thing that strikes you about Spinosaurus isn't just its length. At 50 to 59 feet, it dwarfs even the largest T-Rex specimens. It's not even the massive sail rising from its back like some prehistoric fin. No, what truly unsettles you is how perfectly wrong everything about this creature appears. Yet, how devastatingly effective each bizarre feature proved to be. Consider its skull, a narrow, elongated nightmare stretching nearly 6 feet long. If you've ever stared into the eyes of a large crocodile, you understand the primal fear that comes from seeing a predator perfectly designed for aquatic ambush. Now, imagine that same sinister profile scaled up to dwarf any modern crocodilian, mounted on a body that could rear up 20 feet into the air. The skull alone weighed as much as a small car, yet it cut through water with the efficiency of a torpedo. Scientists debate its exact function: thermoregulation, display, fed storage for surviving dry seasons, but its psychological impact is undeniable. Picture this nightmare rising from murky water. First, the elongated snout breaking the surface, then those cold, reptilian eyes, and finally, that towering sail cutting through the air like the dorsal fin of some impossible shark. Imagine the terror of being a fish in the rivers of Cretaceous Africa. Your entire lineage has adapted to recognize danger. The shadow of a pterosaur, the ripples of a crocodile, subtle current shifts. Every instinct honed for survival. But none of that mattered when Spinosaurus arrived. The attack began before you even realized you were being hunted. While you scanned for familiar threats, death approached from an angle you weren't prepared for: the shoreline itself. That massive dorsal structure, those sails, also served a practical purpose that would have terrified any creature unlucky enough to encounter Spinosaurus in shallow water. When the beast needed to move through areas where full swimming wasn't possible, that structure acted like the keel of a boat, providing stability and control, even in water too shallow for other large predators. Spinosaurus remained a perfectly balanced killing machine. Even at 7 to 11 tons, it possessed the mass to overpower virtually any prey, yet remained streamlined enough to move through water with deadly grace. Modern great white sharks inspire fear because they embody millions of years of mastery in aquatic predation. But Spinosaurus had even longer to sharpen the same deadly craft, only with added intelligence, versatility, and sheer size that dwarfs any marine predator alive today. The result wasn't just a hunter of rivers and lakes. It was an 11-ton monster that transformed every waterway it entered into its personal killing field. Those paddle feet weren't just for show. They propelled Spinosaurus through water with surprising speed and maneuverability, allowing it to pursue prey through underwater mazes of fallen logs and vegetation, where other large predators would become trapped or disoriented. Unlike purely aquatic predators that relied on ambush, or purely terrestrial ones limited to shoreline attacks, this nightmare could adapt its hunting strategy in real time. Miss your target during an underwater pursuit? Simply rise to the surface and use those powerful arms to snatch prey from above. Prey takes refuge in shallow water. Those webbed feet provided perfect stability for wading attacks that no other large theropod could attempt. The hunting scenarios become even more terrifying when you consider Spinosaurus's intelligence advantage. Crocodiles are remarkably clever hunters, but they're still reptiles operating on largely instinctual patterns. Spinosaurus possessed the problem-solving capabilities of a large theropod, the same cognitive tools that made other members of its group such effective pack hunters and opportunistic predators. Except this intelligence was applied to an environment where most prey had never faced anything remotely similar. Even more disturbing was how Spinosaurus turned the very act of drinking water into a death trap. Every animal in Cretaceous Africa needed to approach rivers and lakes regularly to survive. For millions of years, this had been a calculated risk. Stay alert, drink quickly, watch for crocodiles. Suddenly, the riverbank itself became unreliable. That submerged log might be a 50-foot predator. Those ripples might not indicate current or wind, but the approach of something that could strike from below with the force of a freight train. The fossil evidence suggests Spinosaurus didn't just occasionally venture into water. It lived there. This wasn't a terrestrial predator that sometimes waded into rivers for a quick meal. This was a creature so perfectly adapted to aquatic life that it spent most of its time submerged, transforming ancient waterways into hunting territories more dangerous than any terrestrial predator could create. In a world where survival depended on understanding and avoiding threats, Spinosaurus represented something unprecedented. A predator that eliminated the fundamental distinction between land and water safety. It didn't just dominate two worlds, it merged them into a single inescapable killing field. And Lee, we can't be talking about the perfect killing machine without mentioning its teeth. Conical, dagger-like, and built to clamp down on prey that thought the water would save them. Each one wasn't just for piercing. It was angled backward like barbed hooks, creating a living fish trap built on a terrifying principle: easy entry, impossible exit. But the teeth were just the beginning of Spinosaurus's sensory arsenal. Recent studies suggest this predator possessed press-sensitive organs along its snout, much like modern crocodiles, but far more specialized. In murky river water, where visibility dropped to mere inches, Spinosaurus could detect the faint press waves of swimming fish from remarkable distances. Prey animals that relied on hiding in dark sediment-filled water were essentially sitting ducks against a hunter that tracked by feel rather than sight. Every movement in the water, a fish changing direction, a turtle surfacing for air, even the subtle current disturbance created by gills extracting oxygen, registered on Spinosaurus's press sensors like sonar pings on a submarine's display. The creature could track multiple targets simultaneously, predict their movements, and position itself for killing strikes with mechanical precision. The rivers were deeper and wider than the Amazon. The tropical forests stretched beyond the horizon, and the air hummed with the calls of creatures that would dwarf modern elephants. In this steaming, river-choked ecosystem, Spinosaurus was far from alone. The Kelenken formation reveals that this aquatic terror shared its territory with a deadly mix of predators, prey, and rivals. Giants like Carcharodontosaurus patrolled the inland areas, while Sarasuchus, the 40-foot supercroc, competed directly with Spinosaurus for aquatic hunting grounds. Mid-sized hunters like Rugops cleaned up Spinosaurus's leftovers, while swift predators like Deltadroius and Behariosaurus used speed and specialized tactics to carve out their place. Herbivores like Ouranosaurus, Rebbachisaurus, and the colossal Paralititan somehow survived this gauntlet. The waters themselves were far from safe, filled with monstrous prey like Entroprist, Mawsonia, Chelanths, Lepidotes, and lungfish. Every species in this ecosystem lived in constant tension with Spinosaurus's dominance. Land predators maintained uneasy truces, herbivores relied on elaborate survival tactics just to drink, and aquatic prey developed increasingly tough defenses. The last Spinosaurus died approximately 94 million years ago. But the questions this creature raises about predation, dominance, and the very limits of survival continue to ripple through scientific understanding, like press waves from some impossible prehistoric nightmare that refuses to stay buried in stone. When we think of prehistoric apex predators, our minds often drift to the iconic Tyrannosaurus rex or the fearsome megalodon. Yet, lurking in North America's ancient past was a predator so extraordinary it could make today's largest wolves look like lapdogs. Today's grey wolf may hold the crown as the largest living canid, reaching weights at 65 kg 143 lb. But rewind to the Miocene epoch 20 to 5 million years ago and the game changes. A new apex predator emerges. Meet Epicon, a colossal predator so fearsome it could rival a lioness in size, and had jaws powerful enough to outmatch a grizzly bear. In simpler terms, this was a dog that could eat a lion. Its name says it all, Epicyon, meaning more than a dog. Because calling it just a dog doesn't do it justice. The story of Epicon's discovery represents one of paleontology's most intriguing progressions from misidentification to revelation. Over 160 years ago, in the fossil-rich sediments of Nebraska, scientists unearthed the first fragments of what would later be recognized as the largest canid species ever to walk the earth. The initial discovery consisted of a fragmented lower jaw. Some individuals matched medium-sized male lions in weight, making them the heaviest canids ever known. But size wasn't everything. Epicyon's most remarkable feature was its bite. Biomechanical studies suggest it had one of the most powerful biting mechanisms ever seen in a mammalian carnivore. The enlarged premolars and strategically placed canine teeth, positioned closer to the jaw joint than in modern dogs, created a highly efficient biting apparatus. Analysis suggests its bite force may have exceeded 16,000 newtons, comparable to a large American alligator. The closer placement of the canines to the jaw joint created a more efficient lever system, concentrating enormous force at the tooth tips. This resulted in a bite that could easily pierce thick hide, flesh, and even bone. Microscopic analysis of wear patterns on preserved teeth confirms this, showing distinctive wear consistent with both flesh slicing and bone crushing. Fossil evidence suggests Epicyon was an opportunistic predator, capable of taking down a wide range of prey, from ancient camels and pronghorns to horses and peccaries. Most impressively, they seem to have been capable of hunting prehistoric rhinoceros species like Teleoceras, which could reach lengths of 4 meters and weigh nearly 2 tons. It's believed that Epicyon may have employed different hunting strategies depending on the prey. One of Epicyon's most remarkable features was its ability to process and digest bone, That really sets it apart from most other large carnivores. Its specialized premolars and thickened molars, with their short, pyramid-like shape and wide bases, remind me so much of modern hyenas. It's a fascinating example of unrelated species developing similar adaptations to exploit the same ecological niche. Recent analysis of fossilized feces linked to Epicyon has revealed high concentrations of processed bone material, which confirms their bone-crushing behavior. This ability would have been really advantageous. It allowed them to extract maximum nutrition from their kills by accessing bone marrow, one of the most nutrient-rich tissues available to carnivores. It also potentially reduced competition with other predators, because they could utilize parts of carcasses that other carnivores couldn't process. This ability to process bone would have been particularly valuable during periods of scarcity. The Mycenaean epoch was marked by significant climate fluctuations, with periods of both warming and cooling, and shifts between wet and dry conditions. During times when prey was scarce, being able to fully utilize every part of a carcass, including the bones, would have provided a crucial survival advantage. The success of Epicyon is clear from its widespread distribution across North America during the Mycenaean. Fossil remains have been discovered in more than 10 different US states and parts of southern Canada, which shows a remarkable ability to adapt to various environments. Recent paleoenvironmental studies show that these ancient predators thrived in a diverse array of habitats, from woodlands and savannas to grasslands and wetlands. What I find particularly interesting are the recent discoveries of Epicyon remains in cave systems and edge environments, areas where different habitat types intersect. These findings suggest that Epicyon wasn't just adaptable, but potentially strategic in its habitat selection, preferring areas that provided both hunting opportunities and shelter. Their ability to process a variety of foods likely contributed to this ecological flexibility. While primarily carnivorous, the structure of their teeth suggests they could also process tough plant material when necessary. This dietary flexibility, combined with their bone-crushing abilities, would have allowed them to survive in a wide range of environments and through various seasonal changes. The ultimate disappearance of Epicyon from the fossil record has long intrigued paleontologists. Early theories suggested that competition from newly arriving big cats led to their extinction. But this idea has largely been discounted because many of the large cats that would have competed with Epicyon, like the famous Smilodon, didn't appear in North America until millions of years after Epicyon's disappearance. Current evidence points to climate change as the primary driver of Epicyon's extinction. The late Mycenaean saw significant global cooling and increased aridity, leading to fundamental changes in North American ecosystems. Recent paleobotanical studies indicate a shift from mixed woodland savanna environments to more open grasslands. This transformation would have affected not only the types of prey available, but also hunting strategies. Epicyon's specialized adaptations, its heavy build, bone-crushing teeth, and relatively short legs, may have become disadvantageous as prey species became faster and more adapted to open environments. Unlike their more generalized relatives, which gave rise to modern wolves and other canids, Epicion's extreme specializations may have limited its ability to cope with these changing conditions. In the dying days of the Cretaceous period, when colossal predators like Tyrannosaurus rex reigned supreme, creatures such as Triceratops and Hadrosaurs often bear the savage scars of T-Rex attacks. Yet, amid this world of relentless aggression, one creature's fossils remain curiously unmarked by such ferocious battles. It wasn't the tallest, fastest, or most fearsome predator, but with a body armored like a tank and a tail capable of shattering bones, this creature defied the rules of survival and made even the mighty T-Rex think twice. This was Ankylosaurus, nature's ultimate fortress, a living testament to the art of defense in an age of unyielding predators. The story of this extraordinary creature began in the early 20th century, when paleontologists working in Montana's Hell Creek Formation uncovered a collection of unusual fossils. These weren't the typical bones they were accustomed to finding. Instead, they discovered an assemblage. I'll never forget the moment I first saw the Dion of Ankylosaurus magnaventris, a fused lizard with a great belly. That's what its name means, and it hints at the incredible story this creature tells. A story pieced together from a bizarre melange of armor plates, robust bones, and distinctive teeth. These remains would our understanding of dinosaur defense mechanisms. The discovery of Ankylosaurus wasn't just a milestone for paleontology. It opened a window into one of nature's most formidable creatures. Back in 1906, Barnum Brown, a paleontologist with the American Museum of Natural History, led an expedition through Montana's Hell Creek Formation. There, among the layers of Cretaceous sediment, Brown unearthed an assortment of fossils that initially perplexed him. They weren't the slender bones of theropods, or the broad frills of ceratopsians. This internal reinforcement provided an additional layer of protection beyond just the external armor, making every part of the animal resistant to crushing forces. The Ankylosaurus's skull alone is a marvel of design and intricate functionality. Shaped like a broad triangle, it was designed to withstand immense press. Its jaw mechanics, though less powerful than those of a carnivore, were finely tuned for grinding tough plant material. The teeth, small but ridged, created an effective tool for processing vegetation, and wear patterns suggest a highly specialized feeding strategy. What's more, the placement of its nostrils and the complexity of its nasal passages indicate not only a heightened sense of smell, but also the possibility of thermoregulatory adaptations. Speaking of armor, the Ankylosaurus's defensive system was far more sophisticated than initially understood. While we've known about its bony plates, or osteoderms, for decades, recent microscopic analysis has revealed an intricate network of blood vessels running through these structures. This discovery suggests that the armor might have served multiple purposes, not just protection, but possibly also helping to regulate body temperature, similar to how some modern reptiles use their scales for thermoregulation. The number of these osteoderms remains a subject of debate among paleontologists, with estimates ranging from 30 to well over 100. But what's particularly intriguing is their unique construction. Unlike other armored dinosaurs that had solid, thick plates, The Ankylosaurus possessed something more sophisticated: osteoderms with hollow undersides. This seemingly counterintuitive design actually represented a remarkable feat of natural engineering. The hollow structure created a dome-like formation that distributed impact forces more effectively than solid plates would have, similar to how modern motorcycle helmets use their curved design to protect riders. This adaptation made the armor particularly effective. The tail club of the Ankylosaurus wasn't just a simple bony growth. It was a precisely engineered weapon, one of nature's most effective deterrents against predation. When I first learned about the internal structure, revealed by recent CT scans of tail club fossils, I was amazed. It was optimized for both strength and swing speed. The club itself was composed of two large osteoderms at its core, complemented by smaller ones at the tip and along the midline. All of this was supported by a framework of highly modified vertebrae, specifically adapted to handle the stresses of high-speed impacts. The mements are staggering. Specimens show the club could reach 57 cm, or 22.5 inches, in width, and weighed approximately 23 kg, or 50 pounds. But these numbers only tell part of the story. The real marvel was in the biomechanics. Advanced computer modeling has shown that large individuals could generate impact forces exceeding 20,000 newtons. Solitary adults might have roamed large territories, primarily in search of food and suitable habitat, avoiding direct competition with other herbivores. Some paleontologists have speculated that Ankylosaurus might have used its tail club for intraspecific communication or dominance disputes. This theory is supported by observations of similar behaviors in modern animals with physical weaponry, such as bighorn sheep or rhinoceroses. The display of their tail clubs, combined with body size and posturing, could have deterred rivals without escalating into physical conflict. However, the evidence remains inconclusive, and further fossil discoveries may provide clarity on this aspect of their behavior. Ankylosaurus thrived in the rich and dynamic ecosystems of late Cretaceous North America, particularly in regions that would later become known as the Hell Creek Formation. This area was a mosaic of environments ranging from subtropical forests to open floodplains teeming with diverse flora and fauna. Fossilized plant remains suggest Ankylosaurus inhabited regions with abundant low-growing vegetation, which suited its low-slung ground-grazing body. The climate of the late Cretaceous was warmer and more humid than today, which supported lush forests dominated by conifers, cycads, and ferns. Ankylosaurus likely played a role in shaping this ecosystem, though not as extensively as herding dinosaurs like hadrosaurs. Instead, its selective feeding habits might have influenced plant growth patterns in localized areas. The association of Ankylosaurus fossils with specific types of vegetation has led researchers to hypothesize that they may have helped disperse seeds, inadvertently promoting plant diversity. Seasonal changes would have impacted the behavior of Ankylosaurus. Fossil evidence indicates that some regions experienced dry and wet seasons, influencing the availability of food resources. Ankylosaurus may have adapted by modifying its diet or undertaking small-scale migrations to follow vegetation growth. The robust construction of its body, coupled with its ability to consume tough plant material, would have allowed it to survive in less than ideal conditions. The coexistence of Ankylosaurus with large herbivores like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, as well as apex predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, paints a vivid picture of its ecological niche. While Ankylosaurus was not the most numerous dinosaur in its ecosystem, its defensive adaptations end its survival alongside fierce competition. Its presence in these environments exemplifies. I often find myself thinking about the Ankylosaurus, not just as a set of bones in a museum, but as a creature that truly mastered its world. What fascinates me most is how it balanced defense and survival. It existed in a finely balanced food web, where specialized roles allowed diverse species to coexist. The Ankylosaurus was primarily herbivorous, wonderfully adapted to process tough, fibrous vegetation. Its broad, low-slung muzzle and simple ridge teeth were perfect for stripping and grinding low-growing plants like ferns, cycads, and horsetails. Unlike some herbivorous dinosaurs with elaborate dental batteries, Ankylosaurus relied on its powerful jaw muscles to break down plant material before swallowing. Recent studies of Ankylosaurus teeth have revealed wear patterns suggesting a surprising degree of dietary flexibility. While its primary diet consisted of vegetation, it may have occasionally consumed protein-rich fungi or small invertebrates, inadvertently gathered while feeding. This opportunistic feeding behavior isn't uncommon among modern herbivores like tortoises and iguanas, which sometimes supplement their diets with protein sources. The digestive system of Ankylosaurus likely included a large, complex gut capable of fermenting plant material. This would have been necessary to extract sufficient nutrients from its fibrous diet. Fossilized coprolites, attributed to similar herbivorous species, suggest the presence of symbiotic gut bacteria, which would have played a crucial role in breaking down cellulose. This process would have produced energy-rich byproducts, allowing Ankylosaurus to maintain its massive body size. Interestingly, Ankylosaurus's broad midsection may have been a specialized design to house its extensive digestive system. The large gut volume would have provided ample space for fermentation and nutrient absorption, ensuring the animal could survive on a diet of relatively low-calorie plants. This adaptation, combined with its sturdy build and slow metabolism, likely made Ankylosaurus an efficient grazer, well suited to its environment. Its sensory capabilities were as finely tuned as its defensive adaptations. Its most remarkable sensory feature was its highly developed sense of smell, vital for locating food, avoiding predators, and possibly detecting mates. Fossil evidence reveals that the olfactory bulbs in its brain were unusually large for an herbivorous dinosaur, suggesting that its sense of smell was on par with, or even superior to, that of many modern reptiles and mammals. Recent studies of Ankylosaurus skull fossils using advanced imaging techniques have revealed intricate nasal passages. These passages likely played a dual role, enhancing its olfactory capabilities and aiding in thermoregulation. The convoluted structure of these nasal cavities, which created a larger surface area, may have allowed Ankylosaurus to cool or warm incoming air, helping it adapt to the varied climates of the late Cretaceous period. Vision and hearing also likely contributed to Ankylosaurus's survival. While its eyes were relatively small compared to its massive body, their placement on the sides of its skull would have provided a wide field of view, allowing it to detect predators approaching from almost any direction. This peripheral vision, combined with its heightened sense of smell, would have made it difficult for ambushing predators like Tyrannosaurus rex to catch it off guard. Though direct evidence for its auditory capabilities is sparse, the structure of its inner ear suggests that Ankylosaurus was capable of detecting low-frequency sounds, which could have been useful for sensing the movements of large predators or communicating with others of its kind. One particularly intriguing hypothesis is that Ankylosaurus may have used its sensory abilities in conjunction with its defensive adaptations. For instance, its acute sense of smell and hearing could have allowed it to detect a predator's approach early enough to position itself defensively, presenting its armored back and tail club to the threat. These advanced sensory capabilities underscore the Ankylosaurus as a highly specialized organism, perfectly equipped to navigate its dangerous environment. The reign of Ankylosaurus came to an end, along with that of other non-avian dinosaurs during the KT extinction event approximately 66 million years ago. However, its legacy lives on in our understanding of natural design and defense mechanisms. The Cretaceous period was an era of titans. This epoch produced not only the largest terrestrial predator, but also the largest land animal ever known, a true monster mash of epic proportions. While dinosaurs dominated, other species also reached massive sizes, including flying reptiles and marine lizards. Approximately 82 million years ago in North America, the world witnessed the emergence of Deinosuchus, the largest crocodilian in Earth's history. This colossal crocodilian, whose name translates to terrible crocodile, was discovered in the 1850s, when large, distinctive teeth were unearthed in North Carolina. Initially, these teeth were mistaken for those of a pliosaur, a type of marine reptile, leading to considerable confusion among paleontologists. However, they quickly realized that this creature was massive and imposing. The sheer size and unique characteristics of the teeth did not align with known marine reptiles, prompting a deeper investigation. The journey to accurately identify this gigantic predator was significantly advanced by Dr. Joseph Leidy, a leading paleontologist of the 19th century. His meticulous examination and publications played a pivotal role in re-evaluating these remains. Leidy's research corrected the initial misclassification, revealing that the teeth belonged to an entirely different kind of prehistoric creature. This similarity made Deinosuchus an imposing figure in its environment. But beyond this general resemblance, Deinosuchus was distinct from other crocodilians, featuring a unique skull shape not seen in any living or extinct genus. The skull of Deinosuchus was exceptionally large, measuring up to 5.6 feet in length, comparable to that of an adult Spinosaurus. Despite its impressive size and robust build, studies have shown that Deinosuchus's bite force was somewhat surprisingly modest. A 2002 study reported a bite force of about 18,000 newtons, sufficient to crush bones, but relatively weak considering its size, especially when compared to the smaller saltwater crocodile, which exerts a bite force of 16,500 newtons. Examinations of Deinosuchus fossils reveal that its skull was not only massive, but also highly specialized. The arrangement of its teeth showcased a combination adapted to its predatory lifestyle: conical and sharp front teeth for grasping prey, and blunt, robust rear teeth designed for crushing bones. This unique dental structure allowed Deinosuchus to tackle a diverse range of prey, from large dinosaurs to hard-shelled turtles, highlighting its versatility as a formidable predator. The bite force of Deinosuchus has been a topic of considerable debate and study, reflecting one of the widest ranges in estimates for any prehistoric predator. Initial research suggested a bite force of around 18,000 newtons, a figure based on the size and structure of its skull. However, this estimate was challenged by a later study, which proposed that Deinosuchus possessed an astonishingly powerful bite force exceeding 100,000 newtons, nearly double that of Tyrannosaurus rex. This dramatic discrepancy highlights the ongoing debate within the paleontological community. Dr. Greg Erickson, leading one of the key studies on this topic, employed advanced biomechanical modeling to simulate Deinosuchus's bite mechanics. Erickson's team found that the robust construction of Deinosuchus's skull and teeth supported the possibility of such a formidable bite force. With 22 exceptionally robust teeth designed to withstand high forces, and some specifically adapted for crushing large bones, this ancient crocodilian was well equipped to exert tremendous press. The latest evidence leans towards the higher end of the estimated range, reinforcing the notions that Deinosuchus could have indeed possessed one of the most powerful bites of any known predator. This higher estimate aligns with the physical characteristics of its skull and teeth, suggesting that Deinosuchus was capable of generating extreme biting forces, making it one of the most formidable crocodile forms ever to have existed. The formidable bite force of Deinosuchus, along with its durable and sizable teeth, about the size of a banana, points to its role as a dominant predator of its time. This prehistoric giant was well equipped to tackle the largest prey in its environment. Imagine a crocodile so immense it preyed on dinosaurs. That's Deinosuchus, an ancient apex predator whose fossilized remains tell a story of dominance and survival in the late Cretaceous period. Bite marks on the bones of hadrosaurs are a testament to its power. This wasn't just a threat to plant-eating dinosaurs. Even large theropods weren't safe. Deinosuchus likely posed a threat to dinosaurs such as Ankylosaurus and Hadrosaurus. Even large theropods like Paleopsilopterus weren't immune, with certain bite marks on their bones attributed to Deinosuchus. This apex predator likely influenced the size and distribution of other theropods in its eastern habitat. No other theropod in the area reached its size, further supporting its role as a top predator. Analyzing coprolites, fossilized feces, has given us direct evidence of Deinosuchus's diet. These samples contain fragments of dinosaur bones, fish scales, and turtle shells. I remember reading a paper by Dr. Karen Chin, a specialist in this area, who emphasized how these diverse prey items highlight Deinosuchus's opportunistic feeding behavior. It seems this ancient predator consumed a wide range of animals, from large herbivorous dinosaurs to smaller aquatic creatures. It's believed Deinosuchus used ambush tactics, leveraging its massive size and crushing bite to inflict fatal injuries. Like modern crocodiles, it likely employed a death roll maneuver. This technique, where the predator grabs its prey and rapidly rotates, uses the predator's body weight and momentum to incapacitate and dismember it. Reconstructing these hunting methods involves analyzing fossil evidence and comparing it to the behavior of modern crocodilians. The robust anatomical features of Deinosuchus, including strong neck muscles and a sturdy body, support this hypothesis, painting a picture of a highly effective predator. Interestingly, Deinosuchus experienced a slow growth rate. Growth rings on its osteoderms indicate it took around 35 years to reach full size. Despite this long maturation period, even juvenile Deinosuchus were formidable predators, sporting considerable size and powerful bites. Adding to their fearsome nature, they were equipped with large, thick osteoderms, bony plates that provided substantial protection against predators and environmental hazards. These osteoderms not only served as armor, but also supported the animal's massive body, increasing its load-bearing capacity and enabling efficient movement on land despite its size. Deinosuchus was a highly successful predator, as evidenced by its extensive range. Remains have been found throughout the United States and northern Mexico. During its prime, the American continent was divided by the Western Interior Seaway, a shallow sea, and Deinosuchus thrived on both sides. The reasons for its extinction remain unclear. Climate changes, sea level fluctuations, and competition with emerging predators are potential factors. Its extinction marked the end of an era, but the fossil remains continue to provide valuable insights into the life and ecosystems of the late Cretaceous period. In a different corner of prehistoric America, another giant reigned. In the world of big cats, the tiger, lion, and jaguar have always fought for supremacy, each vying to be the ultimate apex predator. But there's one ancient beast that towers above them all: the American lion. This was no ordinary feline. It was the largest to ever walk the earth. Imagine a creature so massive that some individuals weighed as much as an adult brown bear, easily dwarfing today's biggest lions. This isn't just another big cat. It's a legendary predator that dominated its world like no other, leaving modern felines in the dust. The story of this magnificent creature's discovery begins in the humid lands of Mississippi during the early 1800s. When paleontologists first unearthed fragments of its skull, they initially believed they had found remains of an unusually large domestic cat, placing it in the genus Felis. This classification, however, would prove to be just the first chapter in a much longer story of scientific discovery and reclassification. As more specimens emerged from the Earth, scientists quickly realized they were dealing with something far more impressive. Male American lions typically weighed between 351 kilo and 420 kilo, already making them substantially larger than any living big cat. But the most impressive specimens, discovered in 2012, have been estimated to weigh an astounding 523 kilos, equivalent to the weight of 8 adult humans combined. Even the largest recorded Siberian tigers rarely exceed 300 kilos. The American lion's only real competitor for size was the equally impressive Smilodon populator, which could reach weights of up to 470 kilos. But the 2012 discovery firmly established Panthera atrox as the heavyweight champion of the feline world. What makes the American lion particularly remarkable is that, despite its enormous size, It maintained the agility and speed characteristic of big cats. Conservative estimates suggest it could reach speeds of over 30 km/h, faster than any human athlete, and comparable to a charging warthog. This combination of size and speed would have made it an extraordinarily effective predator. I believe the hunting strategy of the American lion likely relied heavily on ambush tactics, a conclusion drawn from both its anatomical features and the hunting behaviors of its modern relatives. Its robust bone structure and powerful muscles would have allowed it to quickly overwhelm large prey, while its long legs provided the burst speed necessary for successful ambush attacks. Fossil evidence provides compelling insights into its hunting capabilities. The discovery of Blue Babe, a remarkably preserved steppe bison in Alaska, bears the unmistakable marks of an American lion attack. Deep claw wounds and distinctive bite patterns that match the predator's dentition. Even more telling are the fossils found at sites like Natural Trap Cave in Wyoming, where researchers have uncovered numerous prey species bearing the characteristic damage patterns of American lion predation. What truly set American lions apart from their contemporary rivals wasn't just their size. It was their exceptional adaptability and territorial dominance. Recent studies of fossil deposits across North America have revealed fascinating insights into their social structure and hunting territories. Unlike modern African lions that typically control territories of 100 to 200 square kilometers, evidence suggests that American lions commanded vastly larger ranges, some extending up to 500 square kilometers per pride. This massive territory was a necessity, not a luxury, given their enormous size and corresponding caloric needs. The fossil record tells us an intriguing story of their social dynamics. While modern lions live in prides of up to 15 individuals, American lion social groups appear to have been smaller but more efficient. Bone assemblages at key sites suggest groups of 4 to 6 adults working together with devastating effectiveness. Their smaller pride size, combined with their larger individual mass, meant each pride needed to bring down fewer but larger prey animals to sustain themselves. Perhaps most fascinating is the evidence of their den sites discovered in caves across the American West. These sites, particularly those found in the Grand Canyon region, show signs of multi-generational use, some caves bearing marks of occupation spanning thousands of years. The walls of these dens often bear deep scoring marks from claws, a behavior seen in modern big cats, but at a scale that dwarfs anything in the present day. Some of these marks are placed over 3 meters high on cave walls, providing tangible evidence of their incredible reaching height when standing on their hind legs. These locations have yielded another surprising discovery: collections of bones from juvenile American lions of varying ages, suggesting that, like modern lions, they had developed sophisticated parenting strategies. Unlike solitary big cats such as tigers, American lions appear to have invested heavily in cooperative cub rearing, a social adaptation. The bite force of the American lion. When I first read about it, it stayed with me for days. To think that this creature, roaming North America, possessed such raw power. Its bite, generated by a thick, powerfully built skull, could reach 1,800 pounds per square inch. That's nearly 3 times stronger than a modern lion, and 6 times more powerful than the famed Smilodon. Cave paintings and other archaeological evidence suggest that these massive cats left a lasting impression on human cultures, potentially influencing early American art and mythology. But their reign came to an end approximately 1,277 years ago, coinciding with a broader extinction event that claimed many of North America's large mammals. It was likely a combination of climate change at the end of the last ice age and the expansion of human populations across the continent. Changing environments, reducing prey availability, and increasing human prey may have pushed these magnificent predators past their breaking point. And then there was another, a prehistoric ruler of the sky, a creature known as the Quetzalcoatlus. Imagine its massive wings casting a huge shadow over the land, causing chaos and panic among its potential prey. Quetzalcoatlus belonged to the Asdarchidae family of pterosaurs, primarily known from the late Cretaceous period. The first specimen was discovered in Texas in 1971. The paleontologist who found it realized almost immediately that this was a monstrous beast, and so he named the creature after Quetzalcoatl, a mythological Aztec serpent god. He also named it Northropi after an aircraft manufacturing company. Quetzalcoatlus Northropi, the timeless conqueror of the skies, the first of its kind to grace human knowledge. Eventually, Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni was identified as a second species within the genus, but Northropi always seemed to capture the imagination. It's become common knowledge that Quetzalcoatlus is the biggest pterosaur and the largest flying animal in history. Yet, despite its enormous size and cohabitation with the iconic Tyrannosaurus, little is actually known about its biology. Its wingspan was initially estimated to be over 21 meters, wider than an F-22 fighter plane. However, paleontologists today believe it was probably closer to 10 to 12 meters, which is still larger than an F-16, and roughly the same height as a giraffe on the ground. Some researchers believe it may have weighed as much as 250 kilograms, close to the weight of a grizzly bear. Even though Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni was much smaller, it still had a wide wingspan, possibly 4.5 to 6 meters. For years, Quetzalcoatlus was considered the largest pterosaur to ever exist. However, recent discoveries of larger species have challenged its dominance in size and weight. One such giant is called Hatzegopteryx, hailing from what is now Europe. It possessed a similar wingspan, but was larger in weight and had a bigger skull. Despite falling short in the weight department, Quetzalcoatlus is still the largest pterosaur to have flown over North America. This magnificent creature also possessed features that set it apart. It lacked feathers and a tail. Instead, it had coarse hair covering its body, giving it a striking look. And unlike many of its contemporaries, Quetzalcoatlus was toothless. When I first encountered the story of Quetzalcoatlus, I was struck by its sheer improbability. This creature, a reptile, but one that defied the cold-blooded stereotype, possessing an extraordinary metabolism akin to other pterosaurs. It's a testament to how our understanding of prehistoric life constantly evolves. Despite its impressive size and capabilities, Quetzalcoatlus, let's be honest, wasn't winning any beauty contests. and contrary to some popular notions, it's unlikely to be a direct ancestor of any modern-day flyer. Its beak, long and pointed like a stork's, lacked the hooked tip we see in many predatory birds. The Quetzalcoatlus northropi, based on skull excavations, was larger than the Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni. One fascinating detail is its ability to rotate its head 180 degrees. I imagine this was incredibly useful for spotting prey and avoiding ambushes. This led some to believe it primarily lived and hunted on the ground, perhaps too heavy for sustained flight. Its anatomy better suited to terrestrial life. This flightless theory, though interesting, never quite took off, so to speak. The discovery of incredibly light, almost potato chip-like bones suggests flight was indeed possible, perhaps even easier than we initially thought. This discovery then opened up a new line of questioning. How did this giant actually take off? And how did it fly? Some theories propose a dramatic leap into the air, flapping its wings, while others suggest a forward lurch using its wingtips, almost like a vampire bat. Another idea involves crouching and launching itself several feet into the air to gain enough room to spread its wings. The secret, it seems, lay in those strong hind legs, providing the necessary power for that initial jump. One study even suggested Quetzalcoatlus was a remarkable flyer, engaging in brief bursts of powered flight before gliding, reaching speeds of up to 80 mph, potentially sustaining this for days, giving it an extraordinary flight range. Despite its overall size, its torso was incredibly dense, packed with massive muscles, allowing it to take off with a single leap and maintain altitude with minimal flapping. After the initial launch, it could probably fly non-stop for an incredible distance, simply adjusting its course and altitude with occasional flaps. The short wings, composed of tightly packed muscle fibers, end both flexibility and strength, allowing for precise adjustments in the air. The remarkable flight capabilities inspired a Johnson Wax-sponsored mission to build a model flying machine to simulate Quetzalcoatlus's flight. This model, the size of a Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni, used a basic computer as an autopilot and successfully demonstrated the effectiveness of these flight techniques, soaring and flapping its wings. The hind limb proportions of Quetzalcoatlus and other Ashdarcids are more similar to those of modern running ungulate mammals than to their smaller pterosaur cousins, hinting at a unique adaptation to life on the ground. This naturally led to questions about their lifestyle and feeding habits. It's generally accepted that Quetzalcoatlus was a carnivore, but the specifics of its diet have been debated. Douglas Lawson, the discoverer of Quetzalcoatlus, initially suggested it scavenged on the carcasses of titanosaur sauropods, much like a marabou stork. This scavenging theory was later questioned, as the fossil site was far from the coast, and there were no signs of large rivers or deep lakes nearby. In 1996, scientists proposed an alternative, that Quetzalcoatlus fed like modern skimmers, cleaving the waves with its beak and snatching fish from the air. However, this idea also faced scrutiny. Studies suggested the energy requirements for skimming would be too high for such a massive creature. Later research indicated that Ashdarcid remains weren't typically found near large bodies of water suitable for skimming, and that their anatomy differed significantly from known skimmers. Skimmers possess necks designed to absorb sudden impacts, a feature lacking in Ajdarshids, which would likely break their necks attempting to skim. Instead, their anatomy more closely resembled modern storks, suggesting they pursued and hunted small animals on land. So, for a while, Quetzalcoatlus and its relatives were viewed as giant vultures, scavenging on the remains of dinosaurs. But as time passes and scientific understanding advances, we're beginning to paint a more detailed picture of this unique creature that once dominated the skies of the late Cretaceous Maastrichtian Age in North America. It seems Quetzalcoatlus likely inhabited a variety of environments, from coastal regions to inland plains. These vast landscapes provided the resources it needed to thrive. The thought of encountering Quetzalcoatlus, that colossal creature, makes me grateful to live in a time beyond its reign. Imagine the skies filled with such giants. Quetzalcoatlus lawson may have lived in swarms near alkaline lakes, sociable creatures waiting. But Quetzalcoatlus northropi, it seems, was likely a solitary hunter, roaming freely inland. It wasn't the only giant of its time. Fossils hint at the possibility that creatures like Tyrannosaurus and Torosaurus coexisted with Quetzalcoatlus, though conclusive studies are still needed. Along with the iconic Alamosaurus, Quetzalcoatlus may have crossed paths with other herbivorous giants, as well as fearless predators like T-Rex, Dromaeosaurus, Triceratops, Albertosaurus, Edmontosaurus, and Dakotaraptor. In the skies, Quetzalcoatlus likely shared its domain with other pterosaurs, such as Pteranodon and Nyctosaurus, coexisting within those extinct ecosystems. The environment offered multiple options for hunting, nesting, and roosting.